Hi everyone, Angus Campbell here, Wednesday the 21st of October 2020. Here we are again, familiar sight, back on with this part 4. So where we left off in part 3 was that we'd shaped and welded up this cone and also the end stub and tacked it onto the main body of the silencer. So what we're going to do now is cut off some of the excess from this cone so we can begin preparing it to tack it to this end. And also what I'm going to do tonight is destroy a bit more of the sacrificial silencer body and do a bit more practicing in preparation for welding up the rest of these, which probably for me as a novice, we can probably get it done, but I don't want it to be too messy. But we have got all the tools, you know, flabber discs and grinding discs, etc., to be able to sort it out with the angle grinder if we need to. But really we want to try and achieve, you know, a nice, what appears to be a, you know, a welded seam that we don't have to dress too much. And we know we can do that if we get the speed right to the extent then where we don't blow through it like we've done there with some of the practicing. So firstly, while the angle grinder batteries are charging, let's have another go at this. Well, actually, yeah, we do need to dress that surface actually and take the chrome off first, and then we'll get this on the bench. And as it's evening and dark outside, then we'll annoy the neighbourhood with some welding. Right, so first things first, let's just trim this a little, and the obvious place to do it first is down that slight indentation there. I don't know why it's like that, but anyway, we'll take it off there and then we'll offer it up to the silencer and see what it looks like, and then we'll that'll give us a clue then as to how much we need to dress off the end of that silencer, which, as I say, as we said before, is slightly flared, so we'll need to take a bit more off that, I think, with the grinder. But anyway, let's see. First things first. Right, 5 minutes later, and now we've taken a good chunk off it, and it fits in much more snugly actually, and I'm going to leave that like that because that gives me, actually I'll tap that in a little bit further just on this side, but where it is nice and flush, gives me you know, a nice little trough to fill with weld. And obviously before I do weld it, we'll just give the edge of each side a good clean up, and clean up with a flapper disc probably just to get this chrome off, and then we should get a nice run all the way around that. It's almost like a V to fill, which is ideal, I think, as a novice. So that's that done. Right, first battery charged. Let's get the grinder out, mount this up and prepare it for some more torture. Well, that's got the cone tacked on. Not brilliant, but not too bad. So again, getting a bit of a run, and there is one on the other side as well. And it's not burning through, which is the main thing. Needs to be a bit straighter, but I need more light, I think. That little mark there is because on the inside I just tacked in the baffle, which was pressed in there quite well anyway, but did rattle a little. So there's 4, there's another one there, 4 tacked in. So not too bad. I had 1 or 2 goes at it, but I think it's it'll be okay. It is going to need a bit of tidying up because I'm not a brilliant welder, but at least we've got the tools to do that. And I say my major worry was burning through it all the time, but it's not doing that, so that's good. So I think the key is going to be when we come to finish off all the way around that seam and at the other end, it's going to be cleanliness. I might just have to bash that in a little bit, it might be a bit too wide, but it's going to be cleanliness and make sure that all this chrome is cleaned off as far as possible, and then we should be okay. Right, so we'll probably have another go at this in the light, because I haven't got too much out there at the bench, and that's hindering things to a certain extent to make sure we're attacking the right area to start with. But at least that was another reasonable test. And then if anybody wants to buy a slightly used silencer body, then it'll become very cheap. But yeah, more practice, and keep going. Back to this a couple of days later, and well, it's not going as well as we'd hoped, but it's not that bad in that we're just going to have to do a bit more work than anticipated with the old grinder. So I know I can see it's reflecting a bit here, and it probably looks, you know, probably a bit worse than it is actually. You can see in a few places I did manage to get a run, you know, going, but I couldn't keep that consistent all the way around. So it got a bit blobby. I think the professional term is bird shit. Not spattering everywhere, but just quite blobby. So in some places I've got to build a little bit more up. It's almost like, you know, a series of tacks rather than a run, unfortunately. But anyway, not damaged it, not burnt through. There's one place where I did a little tiny bit, but I managed to build it up okay. So we just need to, there's a couple of low spots here to fill, and then we'll keep at it gently with a grinder, but I've got a couple of different discs for that. And we're just going to have to be patient, and then I'll get on and we'll try and sort out the other end. Then the other thing to consider as well is that this bracket is too far forward. It needs to be further back, but I'm minded, rather than to try and grind that off, could do it and move it. I'm tempted just to fabricate another bracket for further up here once we've got the 2 of these together, because just to remind you that once this one's done, then I've got to do it all over again. So there's another pair over there. One's going to be the sacrificial lamb, just to provide the cone, and then the other one's, longer one's going to be the main unit. Right, so I'm going to plough on with this, and I'll bring you back when I've made quite a bit more progress on it. Right everyone, several days later. It's been a bit busy at work recently with month end and stuff, but now back on the case. Today is Sunday the 1st of November, so spent quite a bit more time this afternoon, and as you can see now, coming on pretty well really, and also tidying up the other end. Bit of work to do there yet, but it's going to be okay. And what I've decided, excuse me, what I've decided to do as well is I'm going to leave these original mounting brackets on, because I might be able to devise something for the sort of front end mounting of these. which actually the Bandit hasn't got. It's only got the rear end mounting. But what I'm going to do is this poor old sacrificial silencer that we've been playing welding games with, I'm going to take that bracket off, and what I'll do with that is that once we've completed this silencer and its second cousin, because we need two, then I'll put them together and I'll mount that vertically between the two at this end, and that will then, if we go back to the Bandit, that will then become the rear mounting bracket here off the top of the shock, and the front one, well, actually it's probably not going to work, because the official front mounting on these is up here somewhere, and it's on the frame member underneath there, just underneath the what are we, side panel here, not oil tank. But anyway, I'm not too worried about that. I'm thinking about it a bit more though, to be honest. It's just far too far forward, because remember this is going to be mounted on the bike that way round. So as you saw from the Bandit, we need something about there really for the rear shock. And this might have been useful. It's too far back, too far forward. It'll actually be on the bike like that, in that orientation. What I can do though is use this and its counterpart on the second one to put a bracket on to keep them together, because for 1971 the two silencers were actually, they weren't made from cones, they were press plates welded together, so the two silencers were actually one unit. And what they've done to mimic that on the Bandit here, which is an experimental motor and therefore early on, is that those silencers on it, they're made to sort of mimic what they intended to manufacture for production, but those units there, they're actually separate units that have been welded together all down the middle. So that's the look I'd like to go for, but we'll have to see. Sorry, you're not seeing very much of that really. But anyway, plenty on the go though. So finishing this one off, butchering that, and also outside on the mobile bench, I've got the second one of these because I've started to take apart the donors. So we've got the cone off, and the other one's outside because I am just beginning to cut that one up now, and I am using the cutting disc on the grinder. Is going to be a lot quicker than hacksaw in it, and actually these cutting discs that I've got are really nice and thin, so they're very controllable actually, and it's a lot quicker. But at the moment, just waiting for batteries to charge up. We've been at it quite a bit today. So making progress. Right, now we're getting to the stage of a quick mock-up. So managed to cut the end off this. Cone's not in yet, but anyway, just in position really, just to get the length, because I'm just doing a bit of measuring up as to where the rear mounting bracket needs to fix, and it's basically 7 inches from there to there. So what I've done is cut this bracket off the other sacrificial silencer, i.e. that off the one that we've binned, and then that was actually too long, so I've taken one end off it like so, cut this end off. That will be at the bottom, so that will then allow the nut on the other side of this bolt to slide up from this side, and then that acts as a holding it for a captive nut, effectively prevents the nut from turning. And also now that's a nice length to weld at the top and the bottom, and making sure both these arms are well welded in so they don't splay apart. But yeah, beginning to come together. But actually as well, while they're in that position as well, what I can do is mark up where I need to cut this silencer there, and also where I need to cut it there, and then we'll determine how much we're going to cut off in the middle from that cone, and then compress it at one end so we've got enough to dress it so that it's concentric. That's the term, isn't it? As far as possible. Right, getting there. And I think at that point, now we're beginning to see, you know, a bit of a shape as to what it's going to be. We'll leave it there for this episode, and we'll continue on the next one. So, yeah, a bit of a laborious job, and it is a pretty dirty job. Normally do it on a dirty side of a workshop, but I'm trying to do this most of the time outside, and as we're now in GMT, it gets dark early, so it's dark outside. But anyway, managed to do quite a bit today, and also proved that the cutting discs that I've got for this old grinder really work very well, actually. So it's going to make mincemeat out of just getting these ends cut, and then we'll be back to a bit of welding. But I want to get to the stage before I get the welder out again where we'll cut the excess off this cone at this end, because remember we trimmed that down, we don't need all that over. I was going to say overhang, but we don't need all that depth of seat for the cone. And a bit of trimming up to do yet, which we'll do. But as I say, we'll get everything prepared so that we can do all the welding in one go, and possibly try and tack the two silencers together to see how they look as well. I've decided as well that I'm going to cut these off, because I'm feeling confident enough with these cutting discs to be able to do this, as long as these are fixed well enough, and using both hands and the optional handle on the grinder, I'm confident we can get these off. Now I've had a practice with the old sacrificial one, so let me just show you that. There it is. Well, there it was, actually. Not bad at all, actually. Nice and clean. Just need to make sure it's not indented into the silencer too much, and we grind the bracket rather than dig in. We grind this this bracket off, because it's only welded on across that edge. It's not welded on at the edges, at the ends. So, enough waffling. Back in the scrap bin with that. We'll leave it there. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. Bench looks a bit of a mess, but that's because we've got a lot going on here, and all relates to the sort of job and fabrication work that I've never done before. But I'm pretty pleased. Well, I'm pleased with the way it's going to come out. It's going to work, and that's the main thing. It's definitely more satisfying doing it yourself. I'm definitely no welder, but I think I can wield a grinder pretty well. So hopefully that's going to save the day. Right, that's enough. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks for subscriptions and comments. Always enjoy them. And see you all again soon. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye-bye.